Back in 2019, Fire Emblem Three Houses released to critic and audience acclaim. The general sentiment floated was that it combined tactics plus Harry Potter plus Persona, and a lot of people really took a liking to this new entry in the FE franchise. Hearing such positive reviews, I went ahead and purchased Three Houses on release, only to promptly shelve it to be played at an undetermined later date. Why? Because 1, I hate admitting to myself that I'm influenced by the hype train, and 2, because for whatever reason, Fire Emblem games tend to exhaust the hell out of me. 3 years after release, I finally got around to playing it, and I can say one thing for sure. Fire Emblem Three Houses is not at all the game that it appears to be. What is Fire Emblem Three Houses? Is it a tactics game? Is it an epic RPG with a deep engrossing storyline? A waifu or husbando dating game? Yeah, kinda. But actually, no. I would argue that, more than anything, Fire Emblem Three Houses is a character management sim, where the difficulty lies not in the choices you make on the battlefield, but in juggling the stacks on stacks on stacks of systems the game piles on top of you. The primary focus of this game is not fighting, not combat, but optimizing skill and proficiency growth, unlocking character career paths, and babysitting everyone to make sure they're playing nice. Look at these menus here, here, and here. This is the real game. The mechanisms every system revolves around and feeds into. Three Houses is a game about optimization and micromanagement. How many improvements, how many levels, how many support ranks can you get for you and your team using the limited amount of activity points, resources, and days you're given each month? How do you spend your free days? Which students do you want to train and what do you teach them? When and how do you replenish their motivation? Who needs to be paired with whom next battle to boost their support levels? These are the questions you'll constantly be asking yourself and keeping in mind as you move from chapter to chapter. Action economy is the name of the game, and choosing how to spend those actions and when is the actual tactics-based gameplay you'll be engaging in. Do you like sifting through menus? Do you like watching progress bars and report cards fill? How about planning logistics and running cost-benefit analyses? If this doesn't sound fun to you, you might not enjoy Three Houses as much as you think, because what we have here is essentially one big optimization puzzle. This is it. This is the game. Well, about 65% of it, though the other 35% isn't really too much different. I've always thought that Fire Emblem combat was a little wonky for a tactical RPG. The optimal way to approach combat is to fight as inefficiently as possible while keeping your units alive. This means rather than quickly killing enemies outright, you want to drag it out over as many hits as possible to farm for levels, weapon proficiency, job proficiency, and battalion experience. The more hits it takes, the more experience you get. The more experience you get, the faster you progress and the more powerful your units become. And that's not even factoring in support. In order to gain support experience, characters have to stand next to each other when initiating or defending themselves in combat. Imagine, if you will, a slow-moving blob, an amoeba advancing down the battlefield, snatching and devouring anything that dares to approach or stand in its path. Hilariously, that's what combat feels like sometimes. Instead of blowing up a unit and removing the threat, Fire Emblem encourages players to move units up ever so slowly, sacrifice action economy, and create adjacency pockets for the unit that's going to land the killing blow. If I remember correctly, this was the main way you farm support in previous titles, which made the process a total pain in the ass, turning what is essentially a 5-minute fight into a 20-minute slog filled with micromanaging and meticulous positioning. Fortunately, this is no longer solely the case, as there are different activities you can do, like hosting dinner parties and singing karaoke, that can help you develop bonds between units outside of battle. But again, because you have limited activity points and resources to spend throughout your first playthrough, you'll still be relying on amiiboing as a primary way of building relationships. While these new additions are welcomed, it doesn't change the fact that I still find the combat paradox to be extremely odd, in that playing optimally and efficiently means doing the exact opposite of what you would normally expect. But I suppose this has always been the case for games in the TRPG genre, and not exclusive to Fire Emblem. When I think back on my experiences with the Fire Emblem franchise, playing Awakening and Fates, I often find myself feeling exhausted and fatigued. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the stories, but just imagining playing those games to relive those experiences turned me off from picking them up ever again. I could never really pinpoint why this was the case until I finished Three Houses. One thing that I noticed about this game was just how similar it felt to modern mobile games. There are so many different reward systems, so many sounds and dings for doing every little thing, unlocks and unlocked tiers, progress bars to fill, RNG stat upgrades to roll, etc, etc. While none of these are particularly new to the series, the rate and frequency in which they occur seem to have been tightly tuned to constantly feed your brain with feel-good chemicals, enticing you to play more and more. Realizing this made me question how much I actually enjoyed the game and this series. Am I playing because I'm deeply engaged with the story, the characters, and the gameplay? Or am I being strung along by dopamine hits because the devs are taking advantage of human behavior and psychology in gaming? As much as I want to say it's the former, my personal experiences lead me to believe it's the latter. And while I don't think this is done insidiously, it really makes me question my relationship with the series. Additionally, as someone with completionist tendencies, Fire Emblem systems brings out the worst type of gamer in me, the optimizer. I want to see it all, I want to do it all, and this locks me in a never-ending battle with Calvin the cruel completionism devil, who always seems to come out on top. As a result, I often find myself micromanaging and obsessing over every little thing. Character placement in combat, milking as much experience from enemies, motivation recovery and action point usage, tea time answers and gift giving, and the goddamn RNG when it comes to leveling stats. Playing into these systems makes these experiences feel more like work than fun, as the payoff often feels underwhelming or effectively non-existent. Obviously, this is 100% the fault of myself, my own playstyle, and my desire to stuff everything into one run. I acknowledge that. By no means do you have to engage with all of these systems to such an extreme degree to beat or enjoy what the game has to offer. But you have to admit that it feels like Fire Emblem encourages this type of mentality by how they design their systems and the overall experience. I mean, look at Three Houses. Want to know the full story? Please play this 50-hour game 4 times. Dude! I guess it's time I admit to myself that I should not be playing these games. It's over. We're through. It's not you, it's me. And if you're anything like me, someone with completionist tendencies that hates micromanagement and optimizing the fun out of your games, stay away. Stay far away. Do not give in to temptation, no matter how attractive her tattoos and braids are. For she is a cruel mistress, just like Calvin, the completionist devil. As much as I kind of railed on Three Houses, overall, I still enjoyed my time with the game. It's got great characters, an interesting world, and super catchy music. It reminds me of when I was a teacher, for obvious reasons, so it's even got that bit of nostalgia and relatability sprinkled into the mix. I think, more than anything, Three Houses helped me better understand my relationship to the Fire Emblem franchise as a whole. Why I could never bring myself to play an entry more than once, and why I'd need a huge break to recharge after each entry. As much as I like the stories, I just don't gel with the systems, and that's the bottom line. I don't begrudge Three Houses or Fire Emblem for being what it is, but I think it's time I stop trying to convince myself that these games are something that they aren't.